Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here for today's BU Alumni Career Webinar, Supercharge Your Network with BU Connects. My name is Jeff Murphy. I'm a member of the Alumni Career Engagement Team in the Office of Alumni Relations at the university, and I'm thrilled that you've chosen to join us. Today's webinar is offered to our 366,000 alumni around the globe, as well as, of course, all of our current students. Throughout your career, BU is committed to helping you define and achieve your professional goals. We aim to do this by providing alumni and students and everyone with access to a series of valuable online tools and social media communities. As I mentioned before we formally got started, I know we have folks joining us from around the world. Thank you so much for your participation in this and every program that we offer. Today's presentation is being recorded and will soon be made available for on-demand viewing on the Alumni and Friends website, which you can find at www.bu.edu/alumni. Our speaker today is me, fortunately or unfortunately, and I'm eager to answer any questions that you have as we go through my presentation. Feel free to use the chat function, which we were doing before we got started. And also you can submit your questions in the Q&A box. Similar to the chat, when you hover over your menu on Zoom, select Q&A, go ahead and type your questions in at any time. I'm going to make sure we get to all of them. And I will definitely try to pause at a few points during our presentation to do that. So, I think we can get started. You are all here to learn more about how to supercharge your network. And the main way that the university offers for you to do that is through something called BU Connects. BU Connects is our state-of-the-art platform for online networking and mentoring, enabling alumni, students, and faculty and staff to connect in ways that we've never been able to make before. We just passed, after 2 years, we just passed the 20,000 member mark for BU Connects. We're really thrilled with how this is going. And some of the statistics that you see on the screen in front of you, I think indicate that. We truly have representation from around the world, all of BU's classes that you could possibly think of. We have members, a wealth of the university experience is represented, over 1,000 majors, over 1,600 industry segments, and many of our students have indicated an industry that they intend to go in after completing their degree. One of the amazing things that we'll talk more about is that the people who've joined this platform are here to help others and to help open doors and make connections. 78% of that 20,000 are there to help other people have the career success that they're looking for. People are really using this platform to connect with others, and to the tune of over 25,000 private messages have been exchanged on the platform since we launched it, people looking to make connections. And certainly one of the ways that we know we also want to help is by sharing jobs that are posted specifically for the BU community, and BU Connects is another great place to do that. So all of this we know is incredibly important because there's this mismatch out there in the world in terms of how people are searching for jobs. If you're my age, you might have been trained that the best way to do it is just to send your resume out, apply for everything that you can. But we also know that a lot of jobs aren't even being published. People are getting hired because of connections that they have. And so there's not a lot of scientific evidence to support this, but a lot of people are saying that 70 to 80% of jobs that are being hired for are maybe not published. They're done because people are networking. And so we really recommend that people flip the script. Instead of spending 80% of your time spraying and praying with your resume, that you spend 80% of a job search time networking with others to make those connections, and 20% of the rest of your time should certainly be looking at companies online for jobs to apply to. I'll note here, this article that we're quoting is linked in the lower right-hand corner of my slides. I am going to be sending out a copy of my slide deck to everybody, so you don't have to worry about furiously scrawling notes. If you want to follow up on any of the things that I mentioned, you'll be able to do that through the slide deck that I share with you. So. BU Connects is, as I mentioned, we launched it in 2020, and it was a replacement for a system that some of you alumni may remember called the Career Advisory Network. That was really a homegrown database of people who'd raised their hand and said they were willing and making connections with others. But this combine some of the most important features into one handy platform. And we're going to dive into this, believe me, but this idea of a custom discussion feed, a directory that you can search through to find people who are willing to help, or alumni who've said that they're willing to mentor. Groups is certainly an important thing. One of our goals for the university is to bring alumni and students together around things outside of maybe what you studied, but what your industry is, your region, other special interest ways that you might want to connect within the university. And the smart folks among you might be already saying, well, Jeff, this sounds a whole lot like LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a discussion feed and groups and the ability for me to search to network with folks. You know, this, I think we can do it better, is a short way of me making my argument. And I'm going to dive in a little bit into how BU can do it better with BU Connects than you can on LinkedIn. I always like to share this graph that I saw from a person named Matt Shirley. I found this on Instagram. You know, the idea of LinkedIn is much different from what many people experience. And I would count myself among this, that, you know, LinkedIn, it's just people, strangers trying to network with you, LinkedIn specifically trying to get you to upgrade to buy the premium version of the platform, which quite frankly, I don't think is necessary. Some others might disagree with me. So we'll dive into that a little bit more about how I think this platform is different. But one of the key ways is, again, these groups that I've talked about. This BU Connects allows you to connect with others, not only based on what you studied as a student, but by the various identities that you might have had as a student or as an alum. The idea that you could be somebody who studied computer science, but you were also on the men's swim and dive team, or you're also now really interested as real estate as a side hustle, maybe, or, you know, your family's doing some investments, who knows? But this allows you to go from that identity to identity just by joining various groups and networking in those places. Another thing that is, I'm skipping over this mentoring hub. One of the great features that I will highlight for you is the way that we actually, on BU Connects, make a distinction between people that are willing to help sort of in a short-term relationship, or people who are willing to have a more long-term, truly mentoring experience. And there's a key feature in BU Connects that'll allow, it uses a behind-the-scenes algorithm to suggest people that might be a great mentor for you based on what you have on your profile and what they have on their profile. That to me is certainly different from something that LinkedIn might offer. And then lastly, of course, you know, finding a job, combined with another resource at the university called BU Handshake, we're able to showcase positions specifically for the BU community that have been posted for the BU community, as opposed to a lot of the quote unquote junk that you might see posted on LinkedIn or other online hiring platforms. So we're going to dive into all of this in more detail, but one thing I want to start off by saying is it's not just enough to be on a platform like LinkedIn or BU Connects. You really know how to use it. And to illustrate that, I want to start out by telling you a story. And this is about an alum named Tom. I assure you that Tom is a very real person that I've gotten to know a little bit in my time at the university. Tom is super involved and has made himself available to be helpful to others. And I think also he signed up to be a potential mentor. And he was very successful in his career. And to that end is contacted quite frequently by students looking to get some experiences and other alumni looking to do some networking. And one of the things that Tom has told me is that people are always approaching him saying, hey, I've just applied for this job. Would you recommend me? Or do you know of any positions that you might think I'd be a good fit for at any of the companies that you might have worked for in the past? And Tom said to me, why on earth would I risk my reputation, on recommending somebody that I've never met? Or why would I, you know, tell somebody about a position if I don't know anything about them? And so we'll take a look at the end of my presentation at some of the recommendations for the best ways to reach out to somebody like Tom. So this is what we'll do today. I'm going to give you a live guided tour of the platform. We'll go through the key features, and of course, I'll be able to answer any of your questions. I will then spend a little bit of time, once you know how to use the platform or how to navigate the platform, giving you some of my advice on the best ways to reach out to folks once you might identify somebody that you really want to connect with. And then lastly, we'll just talk a little bit about the role that you play in helping make this platform successful. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and let's go to the platform. Okay. Let me know if you're not seeing my live screen here. Maybe just shoot me something in the chat. But you should be seeing the BU Connect platform login page on your screens right now. So first, let's talk about creating your profile and logging in for the first time. All you need to remember is just go to buconnects.com and click on Get Started. You can see that scrolling through here a bunch of times. Let me please also remind all of you, you could also click Join Now in the upper right-hand corner. But what you don't want to do is, if you've already created your profile on BU Connects, don't click Get Started every time you come back. Once you've gotten access to the platform, you're going to want to click Sign In. When I click Join Now, you'll see there are a number of ways you can actually log in to the platform for the first time. And I will tell you that if you are a current student, the easiest way is to just sign in with your BU Kerberos BU username and Kerberos password. If you're an alum, I might recommend that the easiest and fastest way is to sign in with your LinkedIn profile. This is going to allow you to fully sync your BU Connects profile with your LinkedIn profile, which means you can pull all the information you already have on LinkedIn into BU Connects, and it's going to save you a ton of time in getting up and running. You'll be able to start networking in seconds if you sign in using LinkedIn. So that's my tip for everybody. I also want to let you know, when you sign in for the first time, it's going to ask you for some information about who you are. It's really important to us that this platform be only for members of the BU community. And so to that end, we actually match you based on the information you give us in your BU Connects profile with what we have on file for you in our alumni database. And if you, for some reason, don't give us information that matches up exactly, you're actually going to go into an approval queue where we manually review these things. So long story short, if your name is Jeffrey in our database, but on BU Connects you sign up with the name Jeff, you might not match automatically. So to that end, make sure that you are keeping an eye on your email address, because we're going to contact you and let you know that we might need additional information from you to verify you are who you say you are before we give you access to the platform. All right, so I'm already a member, so I'm just going to sign in here using the way that I always do. And as we go through the presentation, just do me a favor and keep in mind that you are seeing my view of the platform. I'm a platform administrator, and so things might look slightly different from what your view is. But for the most part, it's going to be a very similar experience. So, okay, here's BU Connects. I happen to think it's beautiful. I am ready to change this banner image because, as I mentioned, I'm freezing here in my basement in Holliston, Massachusetts today. This is purposely set up to be much like other social media experiences that you might be having. You're going to navigate through the platform using this menu on the left-hand side. This allows you to access all the various features in the platform, and I'm going to go through this in a little bit. Your customized news feed is in the middle, and this is going to show you posts that are made for everybody. It's also going to pull in posts that are specific to some of the groups that you might join. So it really truly is showing you things that are intended for you. On the right-hand side, we've got some highlighted news, some links for some important information that we think we want you to make sure that you know. I want to definitely point out to all of you that there is a mobile app specifically for BU Connects. I will tell you, I think it works pretty well, but as an older person, I find it much easier to navigate and use the site on a desktop or a laptop as opposed to doing it on my phone, but it can be done. There is an app both in the Google Play Store and on iPhone. I will tell you again, the way that you download the app specifically for iPhone is actually a little bit complicated and awkward. So make sure that you, if you're interested in downloading the mobile app, make sure that you click on this link here for how to do that. It'll walk you through that if you haven't done it. It's not like your traditional app on Apple because of the way that they've got their app store set up. So I definitely recommend once you get into the platform, check out this video guide to get started. This is actually basically what I'm going to be covering today, but shorter videos broken into chapters that walk you through each of these tools that are available in the platform. When you sign up, we're actually going to make you indicate, much like the Apple iTunes agreement that nobody ever reads. We do have some guidelines for what we expect this community to be like. This is sort of a rules of the road. And so please make sure that you review these. As an example, we're really trying to keep this free of ads and spam and all the other stuff that you might see on LinkedIn. We are curating this. Believe me, we're seeing each and every post that comes up on BU Connects to make sure that it really is the kind of community that we're looking for. And then lastly, another best practice is to review these top 6 next steps. Once you get in here, if you're not quite sure what to do, read this short article and it'll give you some great ideas about the things that you should be doing on the platform. Once you are in also, during the sign-up process, we don't make you fill out every single field on your profile. So I want to make sure that when you do have the time, you fully complete your profile, and you can always do that by clicking on your picture on the upper right-hand side and then edit profile. This is going to allow you to complete some of the questions that maybe you didn't want to do during the sign-up process. But that's super important because the more complete your profile is with things like personal interests, professional interests, some of the BU activities and organizations that you were involved in, that's going to allow you to be better found by people that might want to be networking with you. And it's also going to do a much better job of matching you with a potential mentor, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure you keep your profile complete as much as you can. You also want to take a spin through your settings. Again, in the upper right-hand corner, you're just going to click on the settings cog wheel. If you ever needed to change your password, if you needed to connect some of your social media handles or resync them, you can do that through here. A really important one is to click on notifications. You have full control over the ways that you will hear from the platform once you sign up. So if somebody is trying to connect with you, if somebody tags you in a discussion post, much like other social media platforms you've been involved in, you have the ability to set the kind of notifications that you want on the devices that you want. You know, if you want to get a text every time somebody messages you, you can turn that on. And then lastly, this is super important to us, but you also have full control over the privacy of your profile. There are certain things that we need you to list so that we can match you with your alumni database information, but that doesn't mean you have to share it with others. So you have full control over privacy of your platform. We talked about that. Yeah, okay. Some of these other tools up here, I mentioned that a lot of folks are using this for messaging purposes. Always by clicking on this icon up here, you can see messages that have come in for you or that you've sent to others, and they're set up as a thread. So you can always go back in and see how your discussion history with somebody. You also have this bell here in the upper right-hand side. This is your notifications. This is basically just going to tell you all of the activities that you might want to be aware of once you got on the platform. Okay. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to go back so you're not reading my private messages. Any questions so far about creating your profile, logging in? Lenworth, great question. Lenworth's asking if this is different from the BU Alumni mobile app. And it is, Lenworth. Thank you for asking. We used to have an app that was connected to some other information resources at the university. That app has since been retired. So Lenworth, if you're looking to do some of this networking on BU Connects, you will need to create a new profile. I apologize. I will tell you, I think this is a much better user experience than the old BU Alumni app. Let's see here, other questions that have come in. Jennifer, will BU Connects email me when my profile is up and running so I can remember to set contact preferences? It will absolutely notify you when your profile has been approved. If you're automatically approved right out of the gate, you'll have immediate access. If you're not automatically approved, you will get an email telling you, you're in the approval queue, we need more information, and be on the lookout for outreach from our staff that will tell you specifically what we need as far as information from you before we can approve your profile. It is not going, that email, I don't believe, will automatically remind you to set up your contact preferences. But again, that's something that we recommend people do once you're in the platform for the first time. Kristen, I signed up with my email address. Can I now connect my LinkedIn profile? That's a great question. You absolutely can. If you sign up using an email address that's different from your LinkedIn, again, by going to edit profile, you can always sync or resync your, oh, sorry, that's under settings. Under settings, you can always resync, disconnect, connect either your LinkedIn, your Facebook, or your Google account information if you want to do that. Thanks for those questions. Okay. All right, so what I'd like to do next is briefly run through this left-hand menu, the key features of the platform, and I'm actually going to go through some of the more straightforward ones first, just so we can get through that. As I mentioned, the sort of backbone of the platform is this discussion feed. One thing I really love about this is that people are taking our advice to introduce themselves and saying what brought them to BU Connects and the kind of connections they're looking to make. The other wonderful thing is that alumni and students are coming here to share internships or jobs that are available. I know there was one recently, just the other day, jobs that are available at their organizations. So definitely worth checking out the discussion feed. As I mentioned, it's going to automatically pull in, if you sign up for any of the groups that we have on the site, it's automatically going to pull new discussions from those groups to show you right when you log in for the first time. So I think that's pretty straightforward. We love it when people like and comment on some of these. The goal is definitely try to create some interaction here. Jobs. Again, I think this is pretty straightforward. I mentioned that we are pulling in positions from an outside platform that specifically for BU called Handshake, but it's only pulling in recently posted jobs. So if you are just trying to get an idea of what positions are being hired for, this is a great place. Just know that it might take you to actually apply for them someplace else. I will tell you, I think the best way to search for jobs that would be of interest to you are by using this central search bar in the top. Being perfectly honest with you, the sync that we have with this Handshake tool doesn't necessarily recognize all of these filters, but between the main keyword search and these filters on the right-hand side, you can find the positions that might be of interest to you. I will also let you know, a lot of the jobs that are being posted here that are pulled in from that outside service are probably a little bit more relevant to young alumni, current students, people just getting started in their careers. But also, I can tell you, I go in and look through this all the time. There definitely are positions shared at the university for people who are a little bit more senior, a little bit more experienced. The other thing I want to tell you about the jobs board on BU Connects is that this is the easiest place to share an open position in your company. If you're not a recruiter, if you're not constantly hiring new jobs, but you happen to know of a position on your team, just by coming over to the right-hand side here and clicking post a job, you can upload the details, enter in the details, upload a job description or a supporting document like a PDF, and have your job posted to the BU Connect board within minutes. I'm not going to do it right now. It's pretty self-explanatory. You have a lot of control over what you put in your post. And you can even select how you want candidates to apply for your position. So this is, again, if from time to time you've got a job at your organization that you want to share with the university community, this is the easiest place to do it. Matthew, thank you for your question. I'll definitely get back to that later on. Okay, I'm going to keep moving. Thank you for the questions that you've put in. We'll definitely make sure to get to those. Okay, events is super self-explanatory. We are feeding in all of the events that are happening for alumni. People that are running groups are also adding events to their own group events calendars. So you can see here, this is showing me my event because I'm part of a group that's hosting an event. But this is a great place to find out things that are happening both online and in cities around the world. This is, again, feeding in events from outside sources around the university. So just know that when you wanted to sign up for something, it might take you outside of BU Connects and into another system to actually register for that. Okay, groups. Let's talk about groups. This is a little bit of a different view for you because I'm a member of every single group that we have on the platform, but there are 55 of them. You can always easily access the groups that you sign up for by just expanding this menu on the left-hand side here. That'll immediately show you the ones that you're already a part of. I think right now we've got 55 different groups. And again, these are regionally based. These are based on industries that you might be interested in. Some of the groups that we actually have might pull you in automatically depending on what your affiliations are with the university. So as an example, if you attended the College of Communications or the College of Arts and Sciences, they have a group that you're automatically going to be a part of just by signing up for BU Connects. And again, the point of these is to create a smaller community within a huge community. Many of these groups, I talked sort of right at the beginning about this switching between identities, but what we're trying to accomplish is to give people a platform within a platform experience. And so each of these, for many of these groups, you might find that they have their own discussion feed, jobs board, events calendar, mentoring programs. So definitely make sure that you sign up for some of those. Okay, at this point, let me pause here and see if there are any other questions we should talk about. So Gregory, you've said, having used the feed section as a student, I feel like the engagement isn't very high most of the times at all. How do you recommend getting higher engagement in the feed, or would you recommend using private messaging instead? Gregory, it's a great question. And yeah, I agree with you. I think when it comes to something like networking, for a lot of folks, that can be a pretty individual experience. And that's why, as I mentioned when we got started, people are using this platform in tremendous ways. And a majority of them are by searching the directory, which we're going to get into in a minute, and reaching out privately instead of doing that in a public place. So I agree with you. And you know, the platform is 2 years old. And what I can tell you is we're seeing better engagement now than we did in the first 2 years. It really, and maybe what I would ask of you is that you take part in changing that. But things are happening. You know, I always appreciate when, particularly, we have a lot of students that will say, hey, this is the kind of thing I'm interested in. And for those of you that are alumni, I would ask that you help by answering questions or making referrals, et cetera, et cetera. Gregory, I don't think you're wrong, but I think it's getting better all the time. Matthew, I'm going to answer your question a little bit later on, but thank you very much for asking it. Okay. All right. How are we doing here on time? I think we're doing okay. All right. So again, I mentioned that the discussion feed is kind of the backbone, but to me, the directory is truly the meat of the platform and really the most valuable thing. And this is where we get into, that individualized networking, the private messages, all of that can be done through here. So the first thing I want to point out is how incredibly easy it is. And this is another distinguishing factor between LinkedIn and BU Connects, is that BU Connects makes it incredibly easy to see the people that have said, that have raised their hand and said that they're willing to be helpful to others in some way. You'll also see that in addition to just being willing to help, we also have a lot of folks who have this green badge, which means they're willing to be a mentor. You could ask them for a longer term relationship as opposed to just opening up a door at their workplace, et cetera, et cetera. So one thing I would tell you is the first time you come into the directory, again, we've got this keyword search here. So if you're looking for somebody to connect with somebody who's in investment banking, you could certainly put that in the keyword search and see what comes up. But again, my best advice to you is to use the filters. The filters on the directory, as opposed to the jobs board, work tremendously well. This allows you to search through the 20,000 folks that are on BU Connects by literally everything that shows up on their profile. And so my advice is come in here, expand all of these search filters on the right-hand side. A lot of the good stuff is actually kind of hidden under the Boston University section, so make sure that you always are looking in there. But certainly work experience and any other education, a lot of BU graduates go on to advanced degrees, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're looking to go to grad school, that's a great way to find people that might have attended institutions or programs that you're interested in. So by expanding the search filters on the right-hand side, this is going to give you all the power of finding people that you truly want to connect with. So location is obviously a big one. The way that BU Connects is actually set up, it utilizes Google locations. So you could just put in Boston. What I have found is a lot of people are putting in their work address as their location. So if you're looking to make connections in your city, using the location filter is a great way to do that. Like any sort of internet search, I would suggest starting broader and then narrowing down. As an example, if you put in New York City, it's only probably going to find people that are in the 5 boroughs. But if you're looking for somebody in, just outside in, like, I don't know, what's a town outside of New York City. So start with New York and then drill down before you get to New York City. Again, I mentioned some of the things that are kind of hidden under Boston University. I think one of the most important profile fields on the platform is professional interests. We know that within 10 years of graduating, there's about a 50% chance that a BU alum might work in something a little bit different from what they studied. And so instead of boxing everybody into the experience they had when they were at BU, utilizing professional interests allows you to sort of either search for people or connect with folks based on where they are now instead of just what they studied. I was a psychology major as an undergrad. I now work in higher education. So if you're looking to connect with people in higher ed, if you're just looking by what I studied, you're not going to find those folks. And then, we'll get into this a little bit more, but when you start reaching out to folks, one of the first things you're going to want to do is mention a shared experience, make a connection with that person. And so to that end, we've asked people to indicate the kinds of things that they did at Boston University outside of the classroom. There's over 500 or 600 student organizations and activities that you can choose from to put on your profile. So that's another great way to identify sort of people with a shared experience as you. And then certainly a lot of the ways that people are going to be looking through the directory are based on companies that they work for, the industries that they work for, the specific job functions that they have. So this really does give you a lot of power to drill down and find folks. Let's just, as an example, if I'm looking for, I'm interested in accounting, just by clicking off accounting, it's automatically going to change the feed here and show me, oh, there's 108 people that have listed their industry as accounting. And so easily I can see all of these people who've raised their hand and said that they're willing to help. Now let's take a look at this really quickly, because when I click on Sarah's profile, there we go. I can see very specifically, because of the way that she filled out her profile, all of the specific activities she's willing to do to help others. She's said that she's offering one-time career conversations. She'll take a look at your resume. She'll offer you an informational interview. She's happy to open doors at her workplace. There are things that she did not select, such as graduate school discussion, job shadowing opportunities. So once you find somebody that you're interested in, definitely make sure that you take a look at what they are offering. Sarah's also signed up to be a mentor, and I can see that here on her platform or on her profile. When you are filling out your profile, one thing that's often missing is that people don't take the time to go back and list previous organizations that they've worked for. And again, if you sign in with your LinkedIn account, it's automatically going to pull that in. But that's another great way to search for, connections at organizations. Sarah hasn't listed other places that she'd worked, but I'm sure that she still has connections at some of the other schools or institutions that she's worked at some point. So that's a super important part of completing your profile. Okay, I think we have a couple more questions that have come in, so let's try to take those now. Michael, you asked, can you search by company? You absolutely can. Let's go back. That is down under work experience and just by listing company. That really should say organizations, because it's not just, corporate companies, but all kinds of organizations that people work for. Kirsten, great question. If I look at somebody's profile, do they get a notification that I looked at them? That's a great other point that distinguishes us from LinkedIn. No, your privacy is super important to us. Nobody is ever notified when you look at somebody's profile. They're only notified if you message them. Nobody's ever asked me that, and I'm really glad that you did. Thank you. Zara, you've asked a good question. It's not really here what we're here to talk about today. So I'm going to ask you to go ahead and email me, and we can chat about this after the fact. Kelly, what if an organization you were in what isn't listed? That would be up to you to make sure it was listed on your own personal profile. You can add any organizations that you might want to your own profile. You're welcome, Sarah. Matthew, I haven't forgotten your question, but it's going to be really great for us to talk about at the end. So thanks for sitting tight for me. Okay, mentoring is super important, and I'm sure if you are a student or a young alum, it has been beaten into your head that mentoring is one of the most important things you can do to advance your career. The mentoring section on BU Connects, again, uses a behind-the-scenes algorithm to suggest mentors for you. So once you've fully completed your profile, the system is going to suggest matches for you based on anything over a 50% match. So you can literally just browse through and see who the system is suggesting that might be a great mentor for you if you're looking. You certainly can just search for mentors in your area. This also allows you to search mentors by job function. If you're looking to make a big change and need some advice on how to go about doing that, you can certainly do that. Lastly, if you're not seeing anything interesting here, you can always just click on Find Your Own Mentor and set your own search parameters for that. All that does is bring you right back to the directory where, again, but once you've done that, it actually automatically checks off this, you're searching among people who have offered mentoring. In addition, the other thing I'll say about mentoring is that we have actually started doing a few school and college and university-wide mentoring programs where using BU Connects, we actually match people together in a one-on-one opportunity for a timed mentoring program that actually has relationship milestones recommended. And so if you're a little bit disinclined to just find a mentor on your own and you'd like to look for a more structured experience, just make sure that you're keeping your eye on BU Connect's messages, because we're constantly letting people know about new opportunities to sign up for a mentoring program to either be a mentor or a mentee. We're actually just doing some matching for a couple of great programs right now around job shadowing and first generation students and alumni, et cetera, et cetera. So, all right. Any other questions about using the directory or specifically about how we might help you identify a mentor? And again, we'll definitely have a few minutes at the end to go through some of these things. Well, with that, let me actually share some advice about how to go about connecting with these people once, not so much the how, but the logistics of it. So once you find somebody that you're interested in reaching out to, just simply go on their profile. There are a number of ways that you can contact this person. Simply sending them a message within the BU Connect system, but you could also just go ahead and email them if they've published their email address, and that's always down in the lower right-hand corner. The other thing that you can do, and I would say this is a best practice, if you know that you want to ask Sarah for an informational interview or to review your resume, click on request help. And what that allows you to do is to customize a message specifically about what she's said that she's willing to do for folks. And then here you can explain a little bit more about what you're asking Sarah to do. This will then alert Sarah to the fact that somebody has specifically asked for one of the things that she said she's willing to do for folks. It's obviously different than just sending her a generic message that just will come across as like an email message. So specifically as it comes to asking for somebody for the type of help that they're offering, I would use that specific request function, either for the willing to help part or mentoring. Oh, let me also mention, there is actually a built-in video chat function. If you're somebody that does not have Zoom, it actually works quite well. I would encourage you to not use this until you've scheduled a video chat with somebody, because if you were to click on this, Sarah would actually get a notification that I'm trying to video chat with her on VU Connects. So that's not what you want to do. And then there's also the scheduling component. This is really only for people that have connected one of these various scheduling or communications profiles that they might use. So again, I would only use this after you've been in touch with somebody about scheduling a time to talk. I don't think you want to just send them a random meeting request. So this is a great way to sort of keep all of your connections and meetings and organizations scheduled right here in the system itself. Okay, let me see if there's other questions that have come in. Nope, nothing else. Okay, at this point, I'm going to go actually back to my slides, and now that you've found somebody that you want to connect with, we'll talk a little bit more about the spirit and the way that I would suggest that you approach these folks. Again, as you know, this is directly talking about my story of Tom that I told you at the beginning. I have some advice to share, but before I move back, are there any other questions about navigating the platform or any of the specific tools or resources that I might have mentioned? And again, I definitely will be here at the end. Okay, great. Here we go. Okay. So I don't claim to be an expert, but I've been doing this work for a while. I've seen people do this really well, and I've seen people do this not very well. And Matthew, we're finally going to get into answering your question in just a few more moments, so thanks for sticking around. The first thing I would tell you is when the first time you reach out to somebody, think of it, this is a really sort of poor analogy, but it's a little bit like dating. If you were to meet somebody, you're not going to ask them to get married on the first date. And similarly, when you meet somebody for the first time, I encourage you to not ask them for a job at their company or a recommendation for a job that you applied for if you don't already know them. The first outreach should be about getting to know them. Ask for advice, ask them for their story, tell you about their career, any insider information that they could share, other people that you should talk to, information that might not be publicly available, but do not ask for a job. Now, there are some models that I'd like to share that I think make a lot of sense about that first message. And again, I'm going to share my slides with you, so don't worry about writing this down furiously. But Joshua Waldman is a BU alum who literally wrote a book called Job Searching for Dummies, Job Searching with Social Media for Dummies. And he's got a great model that I want to lay out for you. The first thing that you want to do is lead with something in common, so that person is going to have a reason to read the rest of your message. Now, the great news about networking within the BU community is simply sharing that you are also part of the BU community, either a student or an alum. That immediately creates that meaningful shared connection that you might have. Or BU Connects might allow you to find other things that you have in common with that person. Start out there so that they are hooked. And then you're going to lead in with, here's what I'm asking you to do for me, and get there fast. Somebody like Tom that I mentioned earlier, crazy busy. You really have to be clear at the beginning about what you're asking him for, so that that anybody, he or she, could decide whether or not they're willing to do something for you. You're going to want to give them reasons as to why they should be helpful to you. Highlight what your qualifications are, what your experiences have been. Again, demonstrating to them why you are worth their time. And then again, tell them specifically what it is that you want. This is more of an art and not a science. We actually had a webinar presentation a few years ago that was wonderful. We spent nearly a whole hour just talking about how to write a networking email that people will respond to. There's a link here, so when I send you these slides, if you want to go and dive in on this a little bit deeper, Mo, who's an amazing alum, did a wonderful presentation about this exact thing. But if you notice, his model really, follows pretty closely what Joshua was saying. I'm a BU grad, putting that right in the first sentence to get somebody's attention. I've worked at a PR agency for the last 6 years, highlighting some of those qualifications and why somebody might be wanting to give you their time. Just highlighting here specifically, I'm considering moving to the client side and I'd love to ask you a few questions. And then being very specific, would you have time for a quick 20-minute call in the next few weeks? So other advice, I would encourage you to always do your homework and don't make somebody do it for you. If you have applied for a job at the company that somebody works for, give them all the specifics. If you want to ask them questions about a position, send them the job description, or if there's actually a job number associated with that, send that to them. Don't ask them questions about their company, about their organization that you could find on your own by doing a simple Google search. Don't ask them questions that you could find on your own, basically, is what I'm getting at. We always get a lot of questions about the right way to follow up. I will tell you that some alumni have shared with me that our younger alums and students have not been so great about just taking a few moments to say thank you. If you're able to connect with somebody for a quick chat, I personally think a quick email just to say thanks is fine. If somebody invites you to their organization for a full day of job shadowing or takes you out for lunch, that might be a situation that calls for a handwritten note, but just always make sure that you are saying thank you when an alum finally goes out of their way to give you some of their time. If you've never been great about, once you've made a connection with somebody that first time but haven't figured out how to keep that sustained, we're actually going to be hosting an event on March 13th. It's an online event. You can sign up for it now on our website, bu.edu/alumni. The whole point is, how do you keep these networking connections alive? So as I mentioned earlier, this whole networking thing, it's easier said than done. And I want to make sure that you all know that we've done dozens of webinars in the past that are available for on-demand viewing on our website. You can actually just go to our website, click on the networking tab, and it's going to show you all the different conversations we've had about networking over time. The screen is frozen here. Hang on. Ooh, not sure what happened. Oh, I clicked on the link. Bear with me for a second. Oh, it did it again. I'm sorry. All right, Jeff, don't click the link this time. So one thing I want to drive home is that networking is, if you've never done it before, it can be really difficult. And I think BU Connects is an awesome place to get started with that. If you're a student, thousands of alumni remember what it was like to be in your shoes, and are going to be a little bit more forgiving about, missteps that you might make along the way. And so and again, people are very clear about the kinds of things that they're willing to do. So as long as you're not asking for them, that's really something outside of what they've said they're willing to do, chances are they're going to be more than happy to give back to the community by sharing their advice and expertise. So Matthew, thank you for your patience. A very long time ago, you asked a question. I've reached out to close to 10 mentors over the past year, but have not heard back from any of them. Any advice for how to connect with folks? Matthew, it's a great point. And there's a number of reasons why this could be the case. First and foremost, I think just try to remind yourself that everybody's crazy busy. I know I can speak for myself. I have 2 small kids at home. Between work and family commitments, I do not have a ton of time for myself. And so even though I on BU Connects have said that I'm willing to help others, when people have reached out to me, it can take me a little bit of time to actually carve out the few minutes I need to get back to them. So just keep that in mind. My other advice would be, if you're reaching out to folks on BU Connects but not hearing back, maybe try them on another method. I mentioned you could send somebody a message right through BU Connects, or you could just email them at the email address if they published it, or maybe take it over to LinkedIn. I think using BU Connects in combination with LinkedIn is incredibly powerful. Vice versa, if you find somebody on LinkedIn that's a BU alum that you're interested in connecting with, the first thing I would do is go to BU Connects and see if they're in there and they've been specific about how they want to help. But it might take a couple times. My personal rule is 3 strikes and you're out. So give it 3 times to contact people in various places. And if you're still not hearing back, then unfortunately, I think you might want to take a look at what it is that you're asking of them. If you led with, I'm looking for a job and I'm wondering how you can help me, people are going to be a little bit less inclined. Like exactly everything we just said about the right way to reach out. You want to make sure that you're doing that, because if you're not, it can turn people off. Matthew, I'm not saying that you are, but maybe ask a friend or a trusted colleague or a supervisor to review what it is that you're sending to these folks, and maybe figure out if there's maybe something that's making people disinclined to reply. I will be honest with you, it's probably the first thing I said, that people are just crazy busy and it's going to take them a little while. Don't give up, keep going. You're welcome, Matthew. I'm sorry it took so long to get to your question. Matthew, also, if you think it might be the content of your messages, let me know. We can definitely strategize a little bit about how to maybe reframe the way that you reach out to people for the first time. So, okay. Wrapping up here, one thing I want to make sure that you all understand is BU Connects is only going to be as successful as its members make it. I've already mentioned we've got over 20,000 people who've signed up for this, 78% of whom have said that they're willing to help. That's amazing. But I need all of you to sign up to be willing to help and to be a mentor, because the more folks that we have that understand how they can be helpful to others because you were once in that situation yourself, that's going to create the kind of community that can compete with a Harvard or a Texas A&M, these schools that have this alumni mafia. That might not be a great term to use. A really strong alumni community that's there to help each other. That's what I need to ask all of you to be part of. We are getting there. People are connecting like never before, and I think BU has risen up the ranks in a way that it's now an elite institution where we need the alumni network to match. And you all play a role in that. So please, please, please make sure that when you sign up, you are offering help and you are offering to be a mentor. You have experiences, even as a student, you've had jobs at, internships, et cetera, et cetera. You have family members that work at organizations that your friends might be wanting to get an introduction to. So this whole idea of networking, it's only as successful as the people and what they're putting into it. So I think I've said everything I need to about that, and that's pretty much it from me. We've got a few minutes left here. I am, of course, happy to take any other questions that you may have, but I'm telling you, the best thing that you can do is just get on BU Connects and start playing around, start navigating through the platform, start using the search functions, the filters to see what comes up. And then as long as you keep an eye on, those rules of the road, you know, I mentioned the video guide is always there as a reminder. I'm going to send you all a recording of what I went through today. I know it was kind of long-winded of me, but there are resources there to help you utilize this platform for career success. And I can tell you, people are getting jobs, people are getting internships, people are making meaningful connections on this platform every day. It's working, and it's going to continue to get better and better. So I didn't put my email address on here for some reason, but let me put it into the chat. So you all have it. I emailed you all already with a reminder about today's event, but you are welcome to email me after the fact. I'm putting my email here in the chat again for anybody that wants to follow up, and I'm definitely happy to stick around for a few more minutes if anybody has any other questions. I'm glad you're all welcome. I'm glad to see that this was helpful to some of you. That is certainly the goal. All right, well, let me know how I can continue to assist, specifically as it relates to BU Connects. I hope you all go forth, have a great networking session on BU Connects. I want to thank everybody for coming. I specifically want to thank those of you that have supported the university with your dollars. We wouldn't be able to do this work without your support and investment in BU. We have some great webinars coming up in March. You'll soon be able to sign up for those, and you can read more about them on BU Connects by going to the events section. I hope you all have a great day or a great evening, wherever in the world you might be. Take care.